A respected federal officer arrives in Cloverfield, only to be publicly humiliated and wrongfully detained by the town's powerful police chief. Raymond Holt's refusal to acknowledge Maya Turner's authority reveals the extent of his unchecked control, fueling outrage across the community. But Maya's resolve and unexpected legal power turn the tables in dramatic fashion. Just wait until you witness how justice found its voice and why the final reckoning in this town is impossible to forget. The morning light streamed through the towering oaks lining Cloverfield's courthouse square, making the town's old red brick buildings appear almost golden. It was a place where calm usually reigned, broken only by the distant tolling of the church bell or the slow roll of patrol cars. Chief Raymond Holt, a fixture in Cloverfield for nearly 2 decades, started his day with his usual routine: coffee from Big Al's diner and a drive through the streets he considered his domain. Holt's reputation preceded him. To some he was a protector, to others a man whose authority stretched far beyond his badge. Cloverfield's older residents saw him as the keeper of order, while younger ones and newcomers treated him with wary respect. Years of policing had shaped his worldview. He trusted his own instincts, sometimes more than the letter of the law. On this particular morning, Chief Holt's attention was caught by a silver sedan parked in a reserved spot outside the courthouse. It was unusual for anyone he didn't recognize to park there, and more unusual still for a black woman, dignified in demeanor and intent, to step out with purpose. Her name was Dr. Maya Turner, though at that moment Holt knew nothing of her background, only that she wasn't a regular. Maya wore a crisp navy blazer and walked with measured calm, her eyes clear and focused. She had returned to Cloverfield for an oversight hearing, entrusted to assess the local department's policies, a fact she was prepared to state clearly. Her years teaching at Georgetown Law had taught her to expect resistance, and her experiences as a federal officer taught her to meet it with patience and resolve. Chief Holt approached with the practiced gravity of someone used to being obeyed. He greeted Maya with a curt nod, then immediately questioned why she had parked in the reserved space. Maya responded with patience, producing her permit and official letter of authorization. She explained her position and purpose in plain terms, her voice neither loud nor timid. Holt's gaze lingered on the letter, but he dismissed it with the authority that had served him for years in this town. "This spot's not for visitors. Move your car, now." He spoke with a firmness meant to brook no argument. Maya, used to bureaucratic hurdles and quiet resistance, did not flinch. "Chief Holt, I'm here on federal business. I have permission to be here," she replied, her tone respectful but unwavering. She handed him the permit, but he refused to examine it. Their exchange began to draw attention. 2 court employees lingering on the steps paused, sensing something outside the usual morning routine. Maya's calm only seemed to add to Holt's irritation, the tension mounting in the quiet. His authority having never been challenged so directly, he responded by gripping Maya's arm and leading her toward the hood of her car. His actions, though not violent, were decidedly forceful, asserting his dominance before those watching. The physicality of the moment rattled Maya, whose resolve remained. She attempted again to explain her credentials, but Holt, impatient and unwavering, ignored her words. He pressed her hands against the hood, radioed for backup, and spoke to dispatch in clipped official tones, labeling her as a non-compliant suspect. Within moments the scene grew larger. A school custodian paused on his way to work. Phone discreetly pointed at the incident, quietly recording. Others watched from a distance, some faces tight with discomfort, others with concern. None dared intervene, but their silent presence amplified the sense of collective unease. Maya's mind raced. In her years of public service, she had encountered intimidation and misunderstanding, but never so publicly and so blatantly. Her wrists began to ache under Holt's grip, yet she refused to cry out. Instead, she repeated who she was and why she was there, letting her composure be her resistance. Chief Holt's motivations simmered beneath his actions. Years of unchallenged control, habits built on authority, the self-assuredness of someone rarely questioned, all these contributed to his behavior. To him, Maya's resistance wasn't just about parking. It was a challenge to his very role in the town. As the minutes ticked by, the gathering crowd grew. Murmurs spread among courthouse employees and passers-by, some questioning the necessity of the chief's approach, others whispering concerns about what would happen next. Amid this, Maya's resolve strengthened. The injustice she faced was not new, but the public setting, the humiliation and disregard of her status, turned her resolve into a silent vow. She would not let this moment pass unchallenged. She committed Holt's badge number and words to memory, knowing this incident demanded accountability. The chapter end left the square charged with tension. The first threads of conflict had been pulled, reverberating through the onlookers and the very heart of Cloverfield itself. The stability of a town built on tradition was now in question, and the path ahead promised far more than simple resolution. It hinted at reckoning. Inside the Cloverfield police station, fluorescent lights buzzed above the bustling front desk, where the sense of anticipation lingered. Officers moved through their morning routines, exchanging muted greetings and reports. When Chief Holt arrived with Dr. Maya Turner in tow, the shift in energy was palpable. Conversations fell quiet. Eyes tracked the pair as they entered. Maya's wrists ached from the tightness of the handcuffs, but she carried herself with unbroken dignity, her expression composed despite humiliation. She took in her surroundings quickly, cataloging every detail: the worn floor tiles, the filing cabinets filled with incident reports, the faded wanted posters along the corridor. Her mind worked methodically, already storing away observations for later. Chief Holt escorted her to a holding room, his steps brisk and posture rigid. He removed the cuffs with little ceremony, telling her to wait. Maya sat, smoothing her blazer, refusing to let her discomfort show. Holt disappeared into his office, where he placed her official documents on his desk and reviewed them with mounting irritation, searching for any loophole that would justify his actions. On the other side of the door, Maya pressed her palms together and breathed deeply. She retraced every moment, thinking of her father's advice from years ago. Even when you're treated unfairly, keep your head high. There's power in self-control. That guidance became her anchor as she heard muffled voices discussing her presence. Officers peered into the room, some with curiosity, some with uncertainty. The station's administrative assistant, a kind woman named Linda, offered Maya a paper cup of water, her eyes apologetic. Maya accepted it with a nod, grateful for the small act of kindness. Holt's frustration mounted as he realized the documentation was valid, the federal seal unmistakable. Official protocol stated Maya's authority. She was entrusted to review the department as part of a broader civil rights audit. As he called his contacts at the state capitol, his voice grew strained, his arguments for detaining her weakening with each response. No one supported his decision. Meanwhile, Maya's phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, news of her detainment already spreading through legal and governmental circles. Her reputation for integrity preceded her, and friends in Washington assured her support was imminent. Maya remained outwardly calm, but her mind churned with the implications of the chief's actions. In the squad room, the incident began to divide the force. Some officers whispered privately, weighing loyalty to their chief against growing doubt about the rightness of his conduct. Among them was Officer James Harris, a thoughtful young recruit who respected Holt's experience but harbored questions about old methods. Harris covertly reviewed the footage captured outside the courthouse and recognized in Maya not an adversary, but someone deserving of respect. As the hours unfolded, the town outside the station also awakened to the news. The video recorded by the custodian made its way to social media, drawing swift reactions. Cloverfield's mayor called the station to demand answers, and legal advisors from the Department of Justice reached out, alerting the station of Maya's protected status. Eventually, Holt returned to the holding room, his expression a mask of strained authority. He tried to assert control, insisting that Maya explain her real mission. Maya, her composure unshaken, calmly reiterated her purpose: oversight of police conduct, protection of civil rights, transparent review. Holt's attempts to elicit a confession of wrongdoing were met with patient explanation. Seeing the futility of his stance, Holt attempted to justify his actions, speaking to his deputies and staff. "Just doing my job, keeping order." His words rang hollow, echoing in a room where the balance of power had shifted. Officers observed Maya with growing respect, sensing the realignment of authority taking place before them. Maya's lawyer arrived at the station, swiftly entering into firm negotiations with the officers in charge. Legal terminology filled the air, and soon Maya was released into his custody. She departed the precinct with her head held high, a symbol, for some, of resilience in the face of adversity. That day marked more than a personal ordeal. As Maya left, she caught one last glimpse of Officer Harris, who gave her a respectful nod, a silent acknowledgement of the principle she represented. The encounter would ripple outward, igniting conversation in homes, businesses, and classrooms across Cloverfield. In her hotel room that night, Maya reviewed her notes, the ache in her arms a reminder of the day's events. Despite exhaustion, she was driven by a sense of responsibility. This was bigger than her own pain. She knew her actions would set a precedent, not just in the confines of a courthouse or police station, but in the hearts and minds of those who witnessed her refusal to be cowed. Through the night, the video continued to spread, drawing voices of solidarity from across the country. Maya understood that challenge lay ahead, but she felt emboldened, her resolve growing only stronger as the first wave of night settled over the town. As Cloverfield's lights flickered in the distance, it was clear the story had only just begun. The courthouse was a hive of restless energy, the news of the incident rippling like a sudden wind through the town. Reporters set up their cameras on the courthouse lawn, members of the public gathered along the steps, and local officials moved with anxious urgency. Inside, the atmosphere was both tense and expectant. Everyone seemed to sense that what was about to occur could reshape more than just reputations. It could shift the very foundations of justice within Cloverfield. Dr. Maya Turner entered the courtroom dressed in professional attire, her calm presence noticeably different from the nervous buzz around her. Every eye followed her steps as she handed over the documentation confirming her federal status, and the clerk announced the nature of the hearing, a review prompted by Maya's authority as a U.S. Department of Justice official. Chief Holt arrived with his attorney, avoiding eye contact with the crowd. The unease on his face contrasted the stern confidence he had displayed just days before. He watched as Maya took the witness stand, her demeanor unfazed by the scrutiny. The judge requested an account of the morning's events. Maya spoke clearly and factually, describing her arrival, her duties, and her interactions with Holt. She explained how she had presented her permit and how her words were disregarded. The judge listened intently, occasionally glancing toward the jury, who appeared visibly moved by the calm professionalism Maya displayed even as she recounted her detention. Throughout, she injected none of the drama others might have used. Her strength was in her restraint, letting the facts speak for themselves. The court was then shown the video captured by the custodian, a silent, undeniable record played before everyone. The room grew quiet as Holt's actions played out on screen. Muted gasps, whispers, and uneasy glances passed through the spectators. They saw not only the detention, but the disregard for Maya's authority, and the humility with which she responded. The emotional swings in the audience were palpable, initial anger giving way to compassion, then to a growing sense of hope as Maya's integrity became evident. Witnesses were called, including Officer James Harris, who testified to Maya's composure and the confusion among officers as her federal credentials became clear. Harris's words were careful and honest, describing how some officers questioned Holt's judgment, even as the chain of command demanded compliance. The court noted how respect for Maya grew with each testimony, her professionalism and dignity resonating far beyond the facts of the case. As the proceedings continued, the broader impact of the moment became unmistakable. Young officers exchanged nervous glances, realizing that the way things had always been could no longer be the way things would stay. The mayor listened, weighing the responsibility of leadership against the fear of confrontation. Journalists scribbled notes, aware that the outcome here could set a precedent for accountability in small towns everywhere. Finally, Maya's lawyer made the closing statement, emphasizing not only the incident's specifics, but the larger principles at stake: respect for lawful authority and the protection of rights under law. The judge called a recess, and the crowd spilled onto the courthouse steps, the day's events fresh in every mind. As Maya walked out, she noticed groups of townspeople gathered in conversation. Some expressed doubts. Others quietly admitted they had never seen anyone stand so strong against injustice. The tension that once held the town together had become a force for change. The balance of power was shifting, and Cloverfield's story was now being written in real time. For Maya, hope kindled in the midst of adversity. She understood that justice was gaining ground, not just in the courtroom, but in the collective conscience of the place she had come to serve. The final day of the hearing dawned with a clear sky over Cloverfield, yet the atmosphere among townspeople was anything but calm. In homes and offices, conversations buzzed about what justice would look like now, the courthouse at the heart of a slow but profound transformation. Inside, the tension was nearly palpable. Spectators filled every seat, among them longtime residents, officers, students, and reporters eager to witness the outcome that had already shaped public opinion nationwide. As the session began, Judge Warren carefully reviewed the findings of the federal audit, led by Dr. Maya Turner. The report left little doubt. Documented civil rights violations, a pattern of disregarding established protocols, and leadership that for years flourished unchecked. Chief Raymond Holt sat quietly, the authority he once wielded having slipped away with each testimony and each piece of evidence. Around him, the presence of oversight officers was a clear signal that a new era had arrived for the town's justice system. The courtroom hushed as Maya was called to offer final remarks. With understated confidence, she spoke of her experiences, not as an adversary seeking retribution, but as a steward of justice invested in the well-being of the entire community. Her words echoed with empathy for both the victims of misconduct and those who served honorably in Cloverfield's police department. She acknowledged the difficulties of change, the discomfort, the resistance, and the necessity of courage. Many in the crowd felt a quiet kinship with Maya's message, her ability to voice not only the pain that had been exposed, but also the hope that could flourish in its wake. She recognized the efforts of officers like James Harris, whose willingness to uphold truth had made real accountability possible. Maya made it clear that the case wasn't just about individuals, but about the collective future of a town learning to confront its past. The judge delivered the final ruling. Chief Holt was to be formally dismissed from his position and referred for prosecution under federal law. Furthermore, the court ordered immediate reforms, a revised code of conduct, mandatory training in ethics and civil rights, and the creation of a community review board. The response from the audience was subdued but meaningful. People nodded, some in relief, others in solemn agreement, aware that true justice is rarely quick or easy. In the days that followed, the effects of Maya's work and the hearing itself rippled throughout Cloverfield. School classrooms discussed the importance of civil rights, local media published editorials calling for transparency, and new recruits were given the opportunity to speak candidly with external auditors about their concerns. Younger residents organized public forums, inviting Maya to share her insight, and she became a mentor to several, including Officer Harris, who credited her with changing his perspective on policing. Holt's ordeal continued beyond the courthouse. Stripped of his position, he confronted the regret and isolation that comes when one's past actions catch up. The process was humbling and, for him, unsettling. Former allies hesitated to offer support, and he declined media interviews, choosing solitude over public rebuttal. He privately reflected on the choices he'd made and the legacy he would now leave behind. As for Maya, her role did not fade when the headlines quieted. She met frequently with Cloverfield's new police leadership, offering guidance on reform and building trust. Her sincerity won the respect of many who had once doubted her, and her vision for restorative justice inspired others throughout the region. The town had been transformed, not with fanfare, but through a gradual awakening, as old certainties melted away and new questions took root. Conversations shifted from resignation to resolve. People spoke openly about fairness, dignity, and their hopes for the future. In the courthouse square, where the ordeal had begun, Maya returned to give one last address before departing for Washington. Her words reminded everyone present that lasting change depends on vigilance. Justice is possible not because we demand it, but because we work for it together. Leadership is earned, not imposed, and communities survive not through silence, but through shared responsibility and courage. A wave of quiet applause rolled through the crowd, the sound a testament to both relief and the promise that, in this place, respect for law and humanity could finally coexist. Months later, the reforms continued. Incidents drew fair investigation. Young officers felt empowered to speak against misuse of power. Citizens engaged with their local government, and Cloverfield established a reputation as a town committed to learning from its trials. Long after the court's decision, the story became a touchstone for other communities, a symbol that even entrenched systems can change when truth, dignity, and courage guide those who serve. Maya's influence lived on, her actions a reminder to all who faced adversity. With resolve and the support of others, even the deepest injustices can be overcome, and new chapters written in the pursuit of a better collective future.